What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have an album review for you. And it is the single most brutal album that will come out this year. I'm talking about a band so heavy that'll make you go, cannibal who? Dia, what does even that fucking word mean? I am talking about Ghost and their new album, Impera. And that intro is probably the heaviest thing about the review and the album itself. Now, this comes out on the 11th of March on Loma Vista Recordings. This band formed in Sweden in 2006. This is their 5th album, and, well, I might be kicking a hornet's nest here, but I'm gonna have some fucking fun with it because this band is very divisive, polarizing. There's a lot of debate as to whether or not they're metal, or they're just hard rock, or they're just a pop band. I don't know. I actually like their first 3 albums. Last one, Prequel, bit of a mixed bag there. There were some things I liked on it, and there was definitely some things I didn't. And, well, I wanted to cover this one because, if anything, Ghost is always interesting. And by extension, I think Tobias Forge is a very interesting person as well. He's quite an eclectic listener and writer, and, I mean, I have his early stuff in Repugnant, which I think is really fucking good, some nice raw death metal. And then you hear this, and it could not be more different, but I don't know, there's always just something interesting about them. There's a showmanship about them. Their live shows are very entertaining. And again, the music kind of just divides a lot of metal fan bases. Now, initially this band was sort of lumped under doom metal, almost, you know, kind of classic heavy metal. But at least on this album, I wouldn't say there's enough doom on here, but there's still some heavy metal. And it's kind of noticeable in the opening intro, which is the title track, which honestly I don't have a huge problem with. It builds up well with a cool acoustic piece and some big triumphant heavy metal harmonies and the guitars, and then into the actual Kickstarter, Caesaron or Caesarian. I don't know, that word sounds made up. But this song, you can hear it that they aspire to be like, you know, kind of like that big Electric Eye opener. Like, in fact, the Hellion Electric Eye feels like that was kind of what they were going for, but, you know, it's kind of like a Monopoly. They were shooting for free parking, landing on community chest, and it's like, what does it say here? Oh, go directly to Foo Fighters. Because honestly, it kind of has that power pop sound to it, and with Tobias's vocals, there really isn't a very heavy presence there anyway, and that's kind of across the board, and actually that's kind of across the discography. And that seems to be kind of a main gripe for most people, that his vocals are eh. I don't mind them, but they fit more with, well, not very heavy stuff. And luckily this opening track, and kind of most of this album, is very major chord driven by big choruses, big melodic hooks, arena rockers, songs that were built for fucking sing-alongs, and pretty much this hard rock slash metal, I guess we can call them metal, I don't know, this is a metal channel, we're gonna call them metal just for the sake of it, but that metal infused with, God, I would say 70s hard rock and 80s pop and 80s hard rock. It's a really interesting mix, and it's admittedly catchy. And honestly, if you're gonna go for an era of pop and like just accessible but fun and kind of heavy radio hard rock, that 70s and early 80s era is kind of a sweet spot, at least for me, because I kind of grew up in that era and that was all over the radio, and honestly, that kind of made me fall in love with music in the first place. And then opening salvo with those 2 tracks isn't the only thing that feels like a fierce nod to the past and almost kind of like a tribute in a way. Like, it doesn't sound like they're copying because the riffs are a little bit different, but there are spots in here where it's really close and it has to feel like a bit of a tribute. If you took the opening riff from the song Griftwood on here, sped it up a little bit and added some much needed sleaze to it, you might actually have Ain't Talking About Love by Van Halen. Like, the melody is similar, like it finishes off differently, but those opening couple of notes on there, like, that's a little Eddie-ish. The opening pianos on Spillways kind of sound like Hold the Line by Toto, or maybe like a Foreigner song. The opening acoustic melody, though it is a little bit sped up if you slowed it down on Darkness at the Heart of My Love, almost sounds similar to Silent Lucidity. Again, the rest of the songs don't necessarily ape those bands entirely. Well, all right, Spillways kind of does sound like, you know, Toto and Boston and Styx got together and wrote a pop song, but the rest of the songs kind of venture outwards. They don't necessarily just jock that one moment and keep writing it entirely. And I have to admit, granted, it's a catchy I've heard before, it's a catchy I grew up with, but it is catchy. And say what you want about Tobias, he knows how to write really good hooks, like really clever hooks that are very simple, and again, they're just kind of built for arena rockers, and honestly, they're one of the few metal bands out there that is legit packing arenas, so something to be said for doing that right, I guess. Now, when I heard that Ghost was coming out with a new album, and I saw some of the press release material where they said this one's gonna be a little bit heavier, a little bit darker, a little bit more metal-centric, I was like, is it really gonna be? And honestly, for the most part, it's not, but there are some heavier moments. Watcher in the Sky is almost like an old school fucking Ozzy song. Like even the guitar tone and the guitar lead melody is on top. Kind of sounds something that would have been on, well, maybe Ultimate Sin. Not quite the heaviest Ozzy, but still a bit heavier. There's, again, like syncopated chugs on there that kind of drive the song. And there is a bit more of a dark, sinister feel, but honestly, like, that's dark and sinister for them, which, you know, maybe early on they kind of had that like 70s rock, like a cult vibe, like, oh, careful, they're spooky like those lads in Black Sabbath, which, let's be honest, they're not. But it at least had some sort of like, I don't know, like campy horror vibes, like the weird satanic panic, you know, sort of movies you'd see in the 70s. It had that. That is fucking gone on here. This is polished, very poppy sounding, and just driven by huge melodies. Like even the lyrics don't necessarily have the most sinister dark edge. And I know like there were a ton of fucking people out there like, oh, they're fucking satanic. Well, those people are morons. Don't listen to them. If you can't tell that this is a joke slash gimmick slash novelty of theirs by now, I don't know what to tell you. You are possibly gullible as fuck. And I know, because I invented the word gullible. It's in the Wikipedia article about me that I wrote about me, and I know it's all true because it is on the internet. Anyway, that's a pretty good example of this album trying to be a bit heavier, but maybe one of the other examples of it not being great at being heavy is the song 20s, which I believe was the third single they released, and honestly, I just don't like this song. Sure, it has some heavier grooves to it. It's kind of got this calypso sort of bounce to it. There are like more double bass rolls, which isn't a huge thing in Ghost anyway, but the vocals are kind of irritating on this. And generally, I don't have a huge problem with Tobias Forge's vocals, but again, this is where they don't match up, is when they're trying to do heavier stuff. Like the most gritty vocal you'll get from him is like a weird breathy whisper. For the rest of it, it's just him sort of saying stuff tunefully, but it's just a goofy song. The lyrics are kind of dumb, and yeah, the bouncy groove's fun, but overall, like, this is one of the few times like he missed a really powerful hook in the song, because he just keeps repeating in the 20s and then so-and-so and then so-and-so and then the 20s, and then he goes into the 30s, and by then I just checked out. I didn't give a shit. And that song also embodies the thing about this album that kind of got annoying after a while. Like, everything is such a big, lavish performance, and I get it, especially when you have a stage show like theirs. It is pretty damn lavish. But the horn sections and then the interludes that are on here, like the opening one, don't necessarily have a problem with it. It's actually pretty musical, and it does set up the first song well. But then you have Dominion, which is this orchestral break, which fucking pointless. It really doesn't set up the next song particularly well, and it kind of just screams, hey, they'll play this during a fucking costume change during a live show because you're going to get costume changes. Well, except for the ghouls, which are now relegated to wearing leftover fucking Sid Wilson masks that he didn't want to use. I don't quite understand that look now, but whatever. And then you have Bite of Passage, which, yeah, fun play on words and all, but it's just 30 seconds of an acoustic melody that could have been tacked on to the last track, Respite on the Spital Fields, and would have just fit as a whole song, because it's just the isolated guitars, and then when it goes in the song, it kind of builds from there. Why isn't that the beginning of the song? Why is that a separate track? That doesn't make sense. But as much as I'm bitching about stuff on here, and I probably will still find stuff to bitch about, there are some songs I really like on here. The song Spillways is catchier than hell. I love the chorus. It definitely does sound like Toto's Hold the Line a little bit, like Hold the Line Part 2. The line is drawn, that would be the sub name underneath the movie title. I wouldn't watch it either. But it's a really catchy song, and honestly, Call Me a Little Sunshine, while not the strongest catchy song they've done, because I feel like they're trying to do Cersei Part 2 on that one, it actually kind of reminds me of like, you know, No More Tears era Ozzy, which I still really like that era. It's got good sing-along choruses, like the call and response, like you'll definitely get, you know, that sort of effect live. And I think that was kind of the thing on here. Like they wrote this to be a live show with audience participation and them singing the songs back, because it's obnoxiously catchy. Like there are serious hooks all over here. Watcher in the Sky, very anthemic, very driven, big fucking chorus. It's catchy. Admittedly, like even if I don't necessarily like the style they play, these guys know how to write clever pop hooks. And it drives me nuts because they repeat enough to get stuck in my head, and I don't know, like this was one of those bands was like, man, I shouldn't necessarily like this, but then again, I love all this fun 80s pop stuff, and I do love 70s rock, but this is supposed to be metal. It really isn't. But I don't know, it's kind of fun sometimes. And even Darkness at the Heart of My Love, it's a cheesy power ballad. It's supposed to be dark and spooky. It's not. It's pretty much like Simon and Ghostfunkel. Like, it's just a dreary ballad, has some big anthemic parts, but, you know, nothing evokes any sort of sinister mood in it. It just feels like a love song about who the fuck cares. About as spooky as they get is probably Respite on the Spital Fields, and I mean, it's a good song. It's one of the longer songs. It's kind of a slow burn in terms of building up to, like, the bigger moments on it. But admittedly, it does have a hook. But going through this, I kind of felt like the first half of this album was a bit stronger than the back half. The back half was kind of loaded with, well, stuff you'd already heard before. Like Griftwood, it's not a terrible song. In fact, it kind of reminds me of like a heavier version of a Car song, like kind of structured that same way. But I kind of felt like I had heard that hook already on the album. The big anthemic hooks kind of got repeated a lot, and while they're effective, like that first time, like, oh wow, that's really fucking, you know, cool. And then the next time I was like, I feel like I heard this before. You know, it kind of started to wear. Plus, once 20s hit, it kind of felt like that was a big lull in the album for me. And then after that, well, it just kind of was hit or miss. And even there being some legit awesome guitar work on here, I mean, they even have Fredrik Åkesson on here doing more than likely lead work. I couldn't find out which song he was specifically on. He might have been on all of them. I don't know. But the guitar melodies are huge on here. The guitar harmonies that are on Watcher in the Sky sound very Iron Maiden-y, and I really fucking dug that. But after a while, it kind of just started to wear, and I think the ideas and kind of the fun ran out. And that's the thing with like a novelty band, and they are. They are definitely a novelty band. You kind of go there for the nostalgia of the stage show, the look of the band, because yeah, they wear costumes. It's entertainment. But you strip that back, and are these songs going to be that memorable? Some of them will be. Some of them, not so much. And that's sort of the thing with, you know, costume bands or bands that, you know, wear a lot of makeup and masks and the big lavish shows, is if you strip all that back, if they were just playing like a regular stage with none of these fucking props, would they still be interesting? And that's only kind of so-so with Ghost. So overall, I'm going to give this 3 stars. Honestly, it's not as bad as I expected it, because honestly, I didn't really care for the singles, but there's some really fucking catchy, good songs in here. They might not be the heaviest band on the planet, but they know how to write catchy songs, and there's still part of me that really just appreciates just a good hook and a good melody, and for the most part, they supply that. Honestly, I think they're better off just writing the pop rock hooks versus the heavier stuff. Like, the heavier stuff used intermittently isn't too bad, but when they try to be solely heavy, like 20s was aspiring to be, I think, it just doesn't work. And I have to admit, like, a lot of this is nostalgia too, because it definitely reminds me of a lot of stuff I grew up with, and they play it really well. Those hooks are very similar to stuff that, you know, I grew up listening to the radio, like Van Halen, fucking Styx, the Cars. Shit like that. Like, it's still a huge part of me, and they do play it well. But when it comes down to being a metal band, I mean, they're a good hard rock band, maybe? I know this band definitely irks people, you know, just because they got so big so damn quick. I mean, they fucking exploded. And I know their image has never really matched up with their sound at all. Like, you know, they look like they're fucking sinister and dark, and then when you hear them, you probably go, it's like, dude, why is this Boston cover band dressed like a bunch of fucking goth kids? But while this did kind of fall off in the back half, there's still some good stuff there, and I think the front half actually has some really fucking good songs. They're obnoxiously catchy, and it irks me that I actually like them sometimes. Like, oh, I should fucking hate this band because they're fucking listen to metal. Fuck it, it's good music. They actually wrote it well. I gotta give them credit there. It's far from perfect, and there's definitely some fucking huge flaws with it, but it was pretty entertaining to listen to, and I would probably go back. So, I mean, if you were not a fan of this band, don't even bother. You probably won't like this. I doubt this is gonna win over, you know, people that were detractors initially, but if you were already a fan of Ghost, get it, because that's exactly what it is. Again, I like the earlier stuff. This stuff, I mean, it's good. It's just not necessarily my thing all the time, but I can't deny a good fucking clever hook and melody. They know how to write them. They're pretty fucking good at it. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there is a link down below. We also have a giveaway going on. Once we hit 10,000 subs, we're going to give away a package including Alien Weaponry's new vinyl. It's a limited print, ocean blue. It's fucking pretty. One of our t-shirts, which if you would like one of your own, there is a link to thrallsmetal.com down there. And we are going to give away a $100 gift card to Bandcamp, which, of course, spend on a Friday, help out the bands, but all that can be yours. All you have to do is comment on the giveaway video, which we link down below. And I would say get on that shit, because we are about 20 away from it. So if you have not commented on that, definitely get in on the giveaway. And thank you to fucking everyone that has got us this far. It has been an amazing ride, and we want to keep it going, of course. And I keep running out of shit to say at the end of the videos, but know that it's a thank you, because this is the thank you part of the video, and thank you. So once again, I thank you, one more time, again, and we will catch you later.